Ladies and gentlemen, this RedGaming.com video, we're going to be discussing my opinions on season passes and why personally I always forego buying the season pass. I always just buy the individual pieces of DLC as and when they come out. So season passes have been a pretty big staple actually in the gaming industry for a while now, and sometimes you can get really good pieces of DLC, other times not so much. Now, on the face of it, season passes actually sound a pretty cool idea. In other words, you pay an upfront fee, and then you basically get all of the DLC at a discounted price, which, as I said at the start, it doesn't sound such a bad thing. It actually sounds a reasonable idea, but here's why I don't like it. You're basically hoping for the best. You're putting a lot of stock and a lot of faith in the fact that you're actually going to A, like the original title, B, that the DLC is going to be of good quality, and C, that you're either going to want the DLC in the first place. Now, developers will say that, you know, it's a really good thing. It shows that, and developers and publishers, may I add, that, you know, that they have continued interest in the title and that they want to keep supporting the title, and that season passes are their way of basically thanking you for pre-ordering early for you to get in on a really good deal. And I understand that point of view. And on certain games, for example on Call of Duty or Battlefield 4, where you know that the game's going to be pretty decent, for example, Battlefield 4 currently has a beta, and you could play on that beta, and you could say, okay, well, I quite like this game. But the thing is, that may eliminate the, do I like this purchase? Yeah, do I like this game enough to even buy it initially, let alone justifying spending money on it? However, it doesn't necessarily tell you how good the DLC is. And I think it's pretty much impossible for anyone and their mother to speak about DLC without speaking about Borderlands, because DLC and Borderlands 2 are pretty much synonymous with each other. You can get the Season Pass, and if you'd have originally purchased the Season Pass, then of course you get certain pieces of DLC. On the other hand, if you didn't buy the Season Pass, or whether you did buy the Season Pass, there are certain pieces of DLC that you still must pay for. And the quality of DLC for Borderlands 2 is pretty much all over the shop. In other words, some pieces of DLC are included, some pieces are not, and that adds a bit of confusion, in my personal opinion, to the customer, and it means that you have to do some searching around to actually figure out, well, is this new piece of DLC included or not? More to the point, it basically leaves you at the mercy of the game's developers or publishers. Because, just for example, let's assume that they pledge to add in 4 pieces of DLC with the Season Pass. On the other hand, let's assume that you know, or they are planning on releasing 6 pieces of DLC. Well, let's rank them as, let's say, quality 1, which is like very high quality pieces of DLC, and quality 2, which is the less, you know, awesome pieces of DLC, maybe the shorter pieces of campaign, or maybe quality 3, such as, say, costume packs and crap that personally I don't like, or that I've never ever think about purchasing unless I just happen to get it free as a pre-order bonus. Well, the problem with the Season Pass is you don't know what combination you're going to get. Are you going to get 1? Are you going to get 1, 2, and say 2 3s? Are you going to get, you know, 1 really high quality piece of DLC, another reasonable piece of DLC, and then 2 costume packs? Are you going to get just a couple of map packs? And here's the problem with all of this. It just doesn't really seem particularly like that's a really good idea. Now, in multiplayer games like Call of Duty, like Battlefield 4, it could be better, because you know that they are going to make map packs, and in a way you are somewhat forced in some ways to actually pick those up if you want to keep playing the game, because you know that most of the community is going to buy them, and you're going to get bored on playing the same, 10 whatever levels the game gives you constantly. On the other hand, I think that single player titles lend themselves even worse to season passes, because what type of quality, what type of length is the season pass, or is the piece of DLC? Like, for example, I've used Mass Effect several times throughout RGT as a great example of pieces of DLC, but also of piss poor pieces of DLC. For example, Kasumi's Stolen Memory, great piece of DLC. Mass Effect 3 has some really good pieces of DLC. On the other hand, there's also some really crap pieces of DLC where it simply just unlocks a rifle or something ridiculous. And so, let's assume that they charge, let's just use, prices such as £7. I'm not sure what that would be in dollars, probably about maybe $10, I'm assuming. Obviously, with exchange rates and the fact that sometimes they charge a little bit more for countries in the EU or for the UK or whatever. But let's assume it's about $10 or £7. The thing is that £7 worth of DLC even worth the purchase? If it's like a 30-minute extra piece of the campaign, to me, playing £7 for like 30 minutes, not really. Unless it's something really intrinsic to the storyline, and even then, I'd probably just watch it on YouTube, or I'll just pick it up more likely when it goes on sale, when it goes cheap. I would not feel happy to pay like £7, and I think that could be said for many people. I'd like to know what type of quality that I'm going to be getting before I pick it up. And while I realise that some people love the idea of season passes, particularly, as I've said, with titles like Call of Duty or Battlefield, or something where they know that there's going to be a substantial multiplayer life, with something that isn't like that, I just can't really bring myself to be really excited about the prospect of coughing up the money. And if we talk about Bioshock Infinite a moment, some people have criticised the developers for, how shall I put this, not releasing the DLC in a timely manner. But to their credit, unlike most games developers, they've said, well, it's actually because all of our team were focused on Infinite, the base game, and we only started the DLCs after the main title is shipped. And so you can't expect them to release a really large piece of DLC, which, to be fair, Burial at Sea, for example, is looking to be really awesome. But we don't know how long those are going to be. We don't know how lengthy the pieces of campaign are going to be. And honestly speaking, that's the problem. I mean, for example, Clash in the Clouds of Bioshock Infinite, not exactly amazing. I mean, that's just one of those pieces of DLC that I don't really care about. The Burial at Sea, both episodes 1 and 2, are looking to be really astounding, but personally, I'll just hold out and I'll buy episode 1 and then I'll buy episode 2, because, look, the DLC itself is like £16. You know what, if I have to pay a combined price of, say, $16-17 to buy episode 1 and 2 combined, then so be it. At least I'll know what I'm getting. And I'm not saying that season passes are always bad. I'm not saying that there aren't benefits to it from the developer's point of view as well. It gives them more cash to maybe improve the quality of the title as well. But from the consumer's point of view, I don't necessarily like it. And some people are going to say, well, it's very similar to Kickstarter. You know, you might get that argument. You know, you're paying, basically, you're coughing up front for a title. The difference is, in my personal opinion, you're not supporting a game which is already out. You're supporting someone's creative vision. You're usually supporting a pretty small indie studio. And we could keep going on and on and on. Obviously, you are welcome to completely differing opinions. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm right. I am just saying that in my personal opinion, I don't like season passes. I never have, but I've just noticed they're becoming more and more prevalent in gaming, and it's not necessarily bad. I'm not one of those people that says, oh god, DLC, rip off, red alert. I actually like some pieces of DLC. I really do want the new Burial at Sea, and I'm not someone who thinks, well, you know what, guys, you coughed up I coughed up my $29.99 for Bioshock Infinite. I'm talking obviously of pound prices for the PC, and I expect every new thing to be free. Obviously, the creators of Terraria, they released a huge update for Terraria, and applaud them for it. But to be fair, now they've raised the price of the base game, and their sales have rocketed again. So that's really good for them. But I'm more than happy to pay the price for Burial at Sea Episode 1 and Episode 2, and any other pieces of DLC that I think are good. There have been several that I've purchased just recently, in fact. For example, some of the Dishonored DLCs have been really awesome, but I just don't like the idea of coughing up for a season pass before I even, in some cases, have even gotten my hands on the game, in some cases on the PlayStation 4, for example, before I've even gotten my hands on the bloody console, let alone the games that are on it. And I don't like actually paying for things that I don't even really know just how much it's going to be about, because in some cases they keep DLC, not in all cases, but in some cases they're pretty vague with the piece of DLC, and in others they're more descriptive, but still, how long is the piece of DLC? Am I paying basically like, £16 for up front for one piece of really good piece of DLC? It's going to last, say, 3 hours, and the others are going to be really short. It's really hard to know, and obviously it goes to developer, but that's why my personal rule is that, generally speaking, I won't buy a season pass. Anyway, obviously you can feel free to tell me differently, your personal opinions and so on, but I'm going to get going. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.